I'll just reintroduce you. I'm talking with Tim Alberta, and we're discussing his book, The Kingdom, the Power, and the Glory. Here it is. American Evangelicals in an Age of Extremism. And of course, this context of this, we're approaching another election where this same individual, Donald Trump, looks like he could win the presidency again. And Tim grew up in a similar background to mine and in the Presbyterian tradition, kind of a Reformed tradition. He talks about a lot of people in this book that I know about. Let me just stop here for a second to say this is In Conversation with Frank Schaeffer. Please subscribe with Frank Schaeffer on Apple Podcasts, and to my Substack, It Has to Be Said, at frankschaeffer.substack.com. And by the way, I'm adding this book, Tim, to a new thing that my producer Ernie and I have started called, it's a book club called It Has to Be Read. My own commentary online is It Has to Be Said. And this book will be available as part of our book club as well.
Oh, excellent.
You can
I'm
find
honored.
that on frankschaeffer.substack.com. So lots of stuff there to follow through. So for people, if someone had told me a couple of years ago that there's someone trying to write a book of political commentary from a journalistic point of view that is also going to be defending evangelical Christianity at its best, can this happen? I would have not envied the agent who tried to pitch this project. You're lucky that the last book you wrote was a #1 New York Times bestseller on President Trump. So here's just a little ironical twist. I think in a funny way, Trump and his election and the horror some of us in the more progressive community felt at it, in a strange way, has opened the door for this evangelical journalist to show back up with a book that would have thrilled C.S. Lewis, and for that matter, my father, in terms of their apologetic quest to make Christianity relevant to, as we put it in the 20th century, to modern man. I just think there's a real irony here. And this may be a little too, personal and close to the bone, but I felt that in terms of the humility that comes through from the book, having come from a background of people who ran a genuine faith ministry, I would imagine quite a bit of prayer with you and your wife, and whomever other people you include in a close circle of Christian friends went into this. I don't want to put you on the spot, but I'm guessing you prayed over the writing of this book, and that the current success of it, I think you would interpret as an answer to that prayer.
You're not putting me on the spot at all, Frank. I don't mind talking about this one bit. In fact, I'm grateful to have the opportunity to thank so many people who have along the way been steadfast in praying for me, in lifting me up when it was needed the most. And it really is remarkable. I would hear my dad tell stories when I was a child. My dad was a fascinating man, truly an original. He was an atheist before he came to Christ, when he was in his late 20s. But he'd been working as a financier in New York, and my mom was a journalist with ABC Radio, and they were making all kinds of money and driving a Cadillac and had a big house, and what could be better? And and without telling the whole story, my dad had a very dramatic conversion experience. And my dad was not a snake handler, or he did not pray in tongues. He was not a particularly supernatural person as far as some of the demonstrative elements of Christianity may go. He was a brilliant man. He learned to speak Greek, and he had a doctorate. He was a brilliant man, just like your father was. And yet, he would often tell stories of answers to prayer, and very specific, strange answers to prayer that he would receive, that just continually strengthened his relationship with Christ. And I remember being young, and even as I believed in Jesus, although I hadn't quite yet gone on my own quest of self-discovery and sort of intellectual skepticism to really find the answers I needed, I remember being a little suspicious and thinking that some of those stories maybe sounded too convenient or too easy. But I will tell you, in the space of these 4 years or so that I've been reporting and writing this book, the number of direct and at times immediate answer to prayer have just been, I can't articulate it. I mean, it's just been magnificent, and has in turn done exactly what my dad would describe to me when I was younger, which is strengthen his relationship with Jesus. I've in many ways I came into this project fearful that tackling this material would hurt my faith
Mm.
and it would estrange me from God. And in fact, I'm so thankful. I mean, I'm thankful beyond words that it's done just the opposite, that I've actually found myself closer to Christ and feeling closer to Jesus than I ever have before. And I think that's probably because uh, it's in part because of my own discipline and trying to keep my head in the right places and consume the right information and block out the wrong information. But it's also, I think, in large part because I have had a small army of amazing people all around the country, all around the world, some
Mm.
of whom I don't even know, who have been praying for me. And I can't begin to measure the impact of that.
Mm.